Secularism is the detachment of religion from life's affairs. And what you can see is Britain falls into that because Parliament makes the laws.
That's true, because is Britain a secular state? Is it still not sort of, I don't know, Sue would probably know a bit better than I do.
This is not a secular country.
It's still tied to the church, isn't it? So
See, the point is this.
Yes, you're right.
This is the point. No, the point is this. What is it that makes the laws in Britain? It's not the church that makes the laws.
But it's not,
it is Parliament.
A secular state. It would be incorrect to say.
No, you see what the thing is. This is the point. A secular state, you have to look at what body makes the laws. What body makes the laws in the US? What body makes the laws in France and in Britain? And the body that makes the laws is not the church. It's not the, the Pope in Italy. It's not the, priests in Britain. It's rather Parliament elected representatives of the people who make the laws, who legislate. So let's make that, that's the definition of a secular state. If you look at the Muslim world, these regimes are monarchies. A monarchy, a kingship is prohibited in Islam. These are secular democracies, which obviously differs with Islam. Now, the point you mentioned about this issue of, liberalism.
Sorry, Nasreen, if you could.
Sorry, this point that you said that in practice, even if not in theory, the point that I was trying to say is that if you look at sexual freedom, the society allows sexual freedom regardless of the problems it causes on society. Even though it wants to protect the family unit, and it wants to prevent teenage pregnancies, and it wants to prevent single parents, yet it allows it. This is the point that I wanted to mention.
I'll probably speak to right, but is it fair to blame the issues that Britain has on secularism as such? Or are we putting the onus on somewhere that necessarily it doesn't belong?
Sorry, I think we need to actually take some more questions because a lot of people had their hands up.
Well, I think that's an important point, actually, a very important point. God save the Queen.
I think you should let them deal with
If we do that, then it's just like no one's going to get their points across, unfortunately, because there's a lot of questions.
Clear. Neither Britain nor America are based on secularism. They are based on religion.
Can I ask Sue which
if I could just butt in, actually, we're going to move away from this question and take the next one.
Can I just ask Sue, which country in the world do you think represents secularism?
There isn't a country. Every country in the world has had its culture. Every country in the world has had its culture shaped by one or other of the religions. There are two countries that have secular constitutions. One is India and one is the United States. And both of them have very, very high proportions of religious people living there. The point that needs making with this is that people are drawn to religion when they are insecure. People crave security, and wherever there are high numbers of poor people, disadvantaged people, people at the bottom of the ladder, with a high degree of equality, then that is where you get very high numbers of people who cling to their religion, because religion addresses poverty and need with charity, which is very, very poor substitute for good, well-organised, properly staffed and paid for public services. Think about it.
And Dr. Nasreen, do you want to come back to that at all? As your final point, yeah?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm very glad that Sue made that definition that people come to religion, come to Islam, come to religion because they crave insecurity. So is she saying that liberalism has created insecurity within society, that people are therefore looking for an alternative and answers to their questions and problems that have been caused by liberalism?
Okay.
You don't do that by relying on fantasy.
Sue, sorry, I need to move on. Yeah, student, yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment and ask a question to Sue. Your ideal of what you want to achieve and what the ideas and beliefs that you hold. You believe in feminism and how you want to maybe bridge the gap between what male and females can achieve and what they can do. But the fundamental flaw in your understanding is that you're very reactive. And let me explain myself. The ideal thing that feminism wants to achieve is that they want to do everything that a man can do. But within your basis, you haven't understood whether what a man is doing is right or wrong. So it doesn't matter if there's a fat capitalist sitting in a bank and making a country go down the drain. It doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. That in itself is the wrong concept. So it doesn't matter if a man can murder someone or if a female can do it. It's the act that's wrong, not whether the person is a male or a female. So your whole understanding and whole your theory is based on the understanding that a woman wants to achieve the benchmark of a man. But isn't that in itself flawed?
Well, not unless you think that all the activities of men are malign. If men have the choice, should they perhaps not have the choice? If it's so good for women, and if it's so good for women to do all the things that they're supposed to do, why don't men do it? Why don't men wear the niqab?
That's a really flawed.
I'm just asking a question.
Sorry. Okay.
You answer it then.
I think what
I know it wouldn't suit you, but there you are.
No, you need to answer. You're on the chair. Maybe you should.
Okay, next question. Unless, did you want to get back to that at all? Okay. I'll say that. Yeah, student.
My name's Richard. I'm a Christian, and I guess the question in my mind as a Christian is not is Islam oppressive to women, but is it any more oppressive to women than secularism? And I kind of agree with you both. There is oppression of women on both sides.
No. Secularism.
Sorry, Sue, if you could let the student finish.
Secularism doesn't have any say in this.
Well, I think we do have a culture which is predominantly secular. If it was Christian, Jesus Christ taught on the Sermon on the Mount that it was wrong for a man to even look at a woman lustfully. If our society followed what Jesus said, we wouldn't have a pornography industry. We wouldn't have so-called gentlemen's clubs.
Those are Christian institutions. Those are Christian institutions. Male Christian institutions.
I think Christianity has a higher moral code than Islam, and if we followed Christianity, we would not have the oppression that Islam has, nor the oppression that secularism has.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the speakers want to come back to that? Do you want to? Sorry. Okay.
Thank you for your comment. I think the reality of secular societies today is that it's not just Islam that's had a hard time. It's religion in general that has been treated as a pariah in this increasingly kind of fundamentalist secular state, mostly in terms of France and Belgium and other European countries. Your question about Islam and Christianity, what I would say is that the difference is that Islam, if you read the Quran and you read the sayings of the Prophet, Islam provides a particular a way of life, a complete way of life, where you mentioned this example of not exploiting women and not allowing this as a principle. But what Islam provides is a complete judicial system and a complete education system and a political system that actually brings this to life within a society, which has been missing now for over, since 1924. We had a system like this in the past that protected women in a certain way. And this is why these problems exist in the Muslim world today, of exploitation, trafficking, rape, domestic violence, honor killings, acid burnings. All of these problems exist because the regimes today do not implement an Islamic system that can bring these things to life. And this is the difference, and this is why many Muslim women actually are looking for a return of this system to guarantee their rights, which they don't see under a secular system, and nor do they see under the current dictatorships of the Muslim world today. I think very briefly that would be one of the differences.
Okay, thank you.
He wants to come back.
Richard, do you want to come back to that?
I disagree with what you're saying because, maybe that's true of Islam. You're saying that morality needs to be imposed on people by governments. Whereas what Christianity is saying is that it changes the hearts of men so that they no longer want to do those things. So we don't have to have it imposed from above.
Sorry, very briefly.
Final point.
Okay. Actually, Islam approaches it from two ways, from both those ways. First, the issue is primarily trying to convince the person in terms of their mind and their heart. That's the first way. The second way is that, like with any principle, like you want to prevent murder in a society, you need to have laws that prevent people from committing murder. isn't it? So similarly, Islam looks to change people's hearts and minds, but it also believes that you need to have a structure in place, systems in place, to bring about a practical and tangible change in society, such as keeping family units strong.
Okay. Yeah. Jim.
My question is this: a religion shouldn't be looked at through its followers, rather it should be looked at through the source, and the source is the Quran. And from whoever I've seen that's debated Islam, they've had at least a quick skim through the Quran, and you said you haven't even looked at it. So how are you going to comment on Islam if you haven't read it?
I've heard everywhere you look, there are contradictory ideas as to what the Quran says about this, that or the other, or what the Hadith say about this, that or the other. And they are as contradictory as the Bible. In these scriptures, you can find anything you want. It's all there, depending on your interpretation, and it will confirm whatever you want it to confirm.
Okay, and do you want to?
I wonder whether, because in my initial introduction, I wanted to stress that the debate, I think, needs to move on from does Islam oppress the woman to what kind of values can actually secure certain outcomes from society. So maybe I could actually raise the question to Sue as to how does she, Islam looks to solve the breakdown of the family unit by having laws to regulate the relationships between men and women. So how would she look to address the epidemic of family breakdown, the epidemic of exploitation and domestic violence against women? What is her solution from secularism and from liberalism to actually address these problems?
Thank you. And brother.
My comment is to Sue. I just have a question, and I would like her clarification on this. And I just want to bring in what the lady over there said. So, in secularism, the commodity and what the economic system considers a commodity doesn't really have any basis of morality. Something like pornography, and it's considered a commodity because the state can make revenue from it. Now, I think that the doctor has directly shown that how from this pornography industry leads to a direct objectification of women. So I think over here we can find a direct, almost causal link to how the secular society, which is not grounded in morals in terms of its economic system and so on, directly leads to the oppression. Whereas with regards to Islam, if you say, if you look at a practical example of some of the countries today, let's say country X is following something and this contradicts Islam. Because Islam contradicts it, I don't think you can exactly draw that link which I just made earlier between secularism and oppression of women. So perhaps you can answer that.